Welcome back to another edition of Pure Picks. I'm here to break down UFC 307 Pereira versus Rountree Jr. coming up this Saturday. Before I do, obviously, we always start off with a recap of how we did the prior fight card. So let's get into that right now. Not the best recap I wanted to share with everybody. Obviously, some mistakes were made during this fight card, and we were down 2.17 units. Not good. I was proud that we got the Kutalaba pick right, at least. He almost got robbed. But as you guys can see here for our parlays, we pretty much put a heavy investment on BSD, and we shot our shot with him. I mean, if he won that fight, we would have been really positive. If he lost, then we would have been negative. So turns out he lost. I can't really make too many excuses. I mean, I think that, that was a fair way that he lost. I think that we once again fell victim to groupthink of, kind of glazing BSD and thinking that he was just run out to Moicano. I think next time for the future, the lesson that I'll take from that is that we need to really factor in how fighters are coming off of a potential career-altering KO, right? That was the first time that Benoit has actually been KO'd like that. And when I just saw him, he just looked a lot more tentative and just not like the usual BSD that we saw in the past. Now, obviously, Moicano, super skilled, showed that on the ground and on the feet during the fight, and that could have obviously played a part in that too. But I really expected more from BSD coming in out of that first round right out the gates. So disappointing way. I mean, he pretty much lost the fight after round one. He did win round two on the scorecards, but by then the damage was already done. I mean, this guy, I think both of his eyes were pretty much almost closed. One of them was closed for sure, and the doctor had to stop that. So props to Money Moicano. I mean, he proved us wrong. And yeah, it's a good win for him, but obviously a bad loss for us. Overall, for the stats, 11% ROI since November of last year, 23% on straight picks. Our straight picks have still been on fire. Our parlays have where we've been slipping up a bit. We're now back at 11% there. And props, we haven't really played it, obviously. So yeah, one positive takeaway that I will take from the last card is that we still have our light heavyweight record intact. Every light heavyweight that we picked has been right so far, and this includes obviously Ion Kutalaba, Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes. So if we put some action on light heavyweight, might as well lock that in because I mean it's been pretty correct so far. I mean, even you guys see here Omar Sy, we had him in some parlays. So yeah, that's the one positive takeaway, but obviously gotta improve for the next fight card that's coming up. This is 2 weeks in a row where we're negative for the units and don't want to make it back to back negative units. So we need to get a win this week, and I feel good about this one actually. So we're about to dive in on this. So let's get into Pereira versus Rountree Jr. UFC 307. This will be fought at elevation, so just be aware of that. I see a lot of sloppy decisions coming. A lot of the round lines are over 2.5. Obviously, there's going to be some obvious ones that are not over 2.5 that involve some really volatile fighters. But I think that because of the elevation, people are going to gas harder, and it's just going to cause for a sloppier fight than usual. If you guys remember the other Salt Lake City card, Usman versus Edwards, there were a lot of decisions on that fight card. I think very few finishes, maybe like 2 or 3 finishes, I think. So yeah, I think that it's going to follow the same pattern. So obviously make sure that we're aware of who's training in elevation, who has a good gas tank. These factors are going to be really critical in determining who's going to win a fight or not. So let's get into it. First fight that we have here, we have Tim Means versus Court McGee. This is going to be the retirement home fight. Obviously, you guys can see here that they're both, really old, 39, 40 years old. Let's just check the odds real quick on this fight. So first we have Tim Means opened up in a minus 235. Now he is a minus 210. Yeah, totally understand why people are taking the action on Court McGee here. For this fight, I think for now, I'm siding with Tim Means. I think both fighters are past their prime, but you know Tim Means should have the striking advantage here, especially in the clinch. He really loves to throw those elbows. We saw McGee get knocked out by Matt Brown with the elbow as well, so I think that could play a part into this fight too. McGee is most likely going to try to grapple Tim Means, but I believe that this will put him in danger because Tim Means is actually much better in the close clinch range than he is in the outside range. Means should also have a cardio advantage. He hasn't really tended to gas in the past, from what I've seen. McGee is probably going to try to grapple throughout the fight too, and that could lead into him gassing. But I think that ultimately, I'm just going to pass on this fight because both these guys are really old. I mean, Means is coming off a uppercut loss KO to Uros Medic. Who knows if he has the same durability anymore, right? Especially at that age. This could be a double retirement fight. That's another factor. I mean, there's a lot of factors coming into this. So big here will be Means via decision. I'm totally passing on this fight, though. I think there are much better fights where the units could be to be laid on. Let's move on to the next fight here. So this one, we have another pair of past their prime fighters. We have Carla Esparza versus Tecia Pennington, or formerly Tecia Torres. So the odds right now, we have Tecia Torres / Pennington. She opened up at plus 115. Now she's a minus 160. So opened up as a dog, and then people took that dog action, and now she's a favorite. This is going to be a confirmed retirement fight for Carla Esparza. I think that, yeah, for me, the pick is going to be Tecia. I think Esparza, I'm not going to back a fighter retiring. That's, I just do not like to do that. Who knows if they're going to be as dedicated as they were in training and all that. So on top of that, I mean, Tecia, she looked great in her last fight, in my opinion, coming off a 2-year layoff. Arguably, she won that fight against Tabitha Ricci. That was a split decision, but I considered it a robbery, in my opinion. Whatever rust that she had coming into that fight, I think that it's probably going to be lessened now. She's going to be more active in her style, and she definitely is an active fighter. She throws a lot of volume, as you guys can see there. Tecia also trains in Colorado. Something to make a note of. I think that she's going to be used to the elevation at least more than Carla Esparza, and she's going to be more adjusted to the elevation than most fighters on the card. Esparza does have one clear path to victory, and that is obviously her wrestling. She's a pretty good wrestler for this division. Obviously, she's a former champion. Tecia has a 65% takedown defense. That's average. It's okay. But Esparza is coming off a 2-year layoff, and her last loss was against obviously Weili Zhang. I mean, that was a dominant win for Zhang, but I think that Esparza is going to be rusty no matter what. Tecia should just have the clear striking advantage. For me, I would rather play the minus 450 at over 2.5, because I think that this fight's going decision. I don't think Esparza is gonna sub or like ground and pound Tecia here. I don't think Ticia's gonna knock her out. So actually, we're getting a bit of a discount there too, because it opened up at a minus 500. Now it's at minus 450. So I do like the over 2.5 there. I think this fight's going to go to decision, and I would consider that a parlay piece, in my opinion. So pick here is going to be Tecia via decision. I actually like the minus 450 over 2.5 as a parlay piece. Let's move on to the next fight. So, next fight, we have a light heavyweight matchup. And as I mentioned before, we're 100% on light heavyweight since tracking our plays. We have Ryan Spann versus Ovince Preux, OSP. Let's look at the odds for this fight. So right now we have Ryan Spann at a minus 330. He was actually opened up at minus 315. So obviously, I think this fight was scheduled to happen previously, then they rebooked it to this one. So for me, pick here is going to be Spann. I actually think that OSP and Spann are pretty similar in their fight styles, physical attributes. If you guys look, I mean, they're inch or two off either way on the height and the reach. Obviously, Spann is probably just a little bigger, and he's younger, obviously. So I think that's going to be the big difference here. I think that Spann is just going to be more in his physical prime than OSP. Likely, I think Spann's going to finish OSP in round one. OSP obviously showed that he was still game for a fight in his win against Kennedy Nchukwu, but yeah, I think that if this does get past round one, though, it could get dicey for Spann because he has been shown and proven to fail in the later rounds and make things close and get finished himself even. So I think things could get dicey if he doesn't finish OSP in round one. Spann likes to start fast, and I think that after his last loss, he's tried to grapple Bogan Guzkov, and that didn't work out for him. So I think this time he's going to try to go out there and just try to knock this guy out like round one pretty early. End of the day, though, I'm not going to lay juice on Spann like that. I think that Ryan Spann is not a type of fighter that you want to lay minus 330 on. It's a little high for my taste. So picker is going to be Spann via KO, but I'm passing on that fight entirely as well. Next fight up on the prelims, we have Austin Hubbard versus Alexander Hernandez. Let's see what the odds are for this fight. So right now we have Alexander Hernandez at minus 200, opened up at a minus 180. This is going to be my first dog of the night. The pick here will be Austin Hubbard. I'm not sure who the bookmakers or people think Hernandez is. I mean, this guy, okay, I understand that he's a better fighter skill wise here. And, that there's a lot of factors going against him, though, in my opinion. He's coming in on short notice. He is notoriously inconsistent with his fight IQ, major cardio issues throughout his career. He's been bouncing back and forth between 145, 155. I actually think he is probably better at 155. So he should probably stay in this division because at 145, he does not look good at all, in my opinion. But, I mean, Hubbard trains in Denver. He should be okay with the elevation. He showed me a lot of dog in his last fight against Mikhail Figalak, where he won via decision. I think he was getting pieced up, but he still stayed in there, incorporated some grappling too. I think Hubbard's actually pretty durable in terms of the striking. Obviously, he's been subbed before in his career, and that could be a concern here because Alexander Hernandez is very talented. He's a very skilled fighter, but I just trust Austin Hubbard in this situation much more than I trust Hernandez, especially at minus 200. So I do like the dog odds. For now, though, I mean, I think that we could even get a better price on Hubbard in the live opportunity. So what I mean by that is, let's say that there are some early moments for Hernandez in this fight. He comes out guns blazing, puts Austin in trouble. If Austin survives the early onslaught, I think that we could get a really good live entry bet for Austin Hubbard. So my pick here is going to be Austin via decision. I think it could be a good live opportunity if he falls behind, doesn't get finished. So that would be the way I would want to play it, but I wouldn't also be opposed to a money line play on him as well. I mean, the only reason why I'm holding off the money line play because Hernandez is better. Like he's a better striker, he's a better grappler. It's just the cardio issue for me is really worrying. His inconsistency, his fight IQ. There's a lot of just bad signs for him. So I just cannot pick him in this case. Let's move on to the next fight. So this one, we have a middleweight banger here. We have Ihor Potieria versus César Almeida. Let's look at the odds for this fight here. So we have Almeida at minus 410. He opened up at a minus 325. The pick here for me will be Almeida. I think that this should be obviously a striking matchup, little to no grappling. In this setting, I favor Almeida. He just has a more consistent kickboxing style, should stay safer compared to Ihor Pereira, who just likes to come in and brawl right away. Normally, I would be open to having Almeida as a potential parlay piece, but there are a few concerns that I found from his last fight against Roman Kopylov. So in his loss against Kopylov, he was taken down multiple times, controlled by Kopylov, who before that fight has shown little to no grappling at all. So that's a little worrying to me. Almeida did a great job of defending takedowns from Dylan Buka, but I think having an opponent like Kopylov who was able to have a striking threat and mix in the takedowns proved to give Almeida issues. And Potieria, he's a former 205er, so he's a big guy. He probably has a just a bigger frame than Almeida here, slightly, obviously. And I think he carries a lot of danger in his striking. You know, he might be wild, but he does have legit power. He should be the more physical fighter in this matchup as well, the younger fighter too. Almeida was also dropped by Roman Kopylov, so that's a this guy's older. He could be having declining durability. Most likely, Almeida will probably catch this guy coming in reckless, and he's probably gonna knock him out. But I don't think I can lay minus 410 to find that out. So picker is gonna be Almeida via KO. I'm just gonna pass for now on that fight entirely. Let's look at the next fight here. So we have a women's MMA matchup, vet versus a young riser. We have Marina Rodriguez versus Iasmin Lucindo. Let's see the odds for this fight. So we have Lucindo open up at a minus, or actually open up at a plus 120. Now she's a minus 175. The pick here for me will be Lucindo. I'm siding with the younger fighter here. Few reasons. So Rodriguez, she has a tough time being controlled on the ground. After she's taken down, she just has a tough time just working her way back up and just not getting manhandled really on the ground. And I think that Lucindo, throughout her fights in the UFC, she's shown me enough grappling in her toolbox to control a fight like this. Lucindo also carries a power advantage in this matchup. Maybe she's younger. She's gonna probably be quicker just physically. She might not be the more technical striker, obviously, because Marina Rodriguez is a pretty good striker. But she is 37. She's getting older by the day. I think her split loss against Andrade was a really bad sign for this kind of matchup because I think Lucindo reminds me a bit of Andrade actually, but she has more of a commitment to that grappling skill set and just I think has more skill set in the submissions as well. So I think that I just see her coming in there, taking Rodriguez down and controlling her for most of the fight on the ground. One big factor could be obviously the cardio. Can she do that in elevation? I don't know if we've seen that yet. So that for now, that's really the only reason why I'm a little gun shy about this one. Pick here will be Lucindo via decision. I mean, whoever got her at plus odds, I think that was a great play. So, I think minus 175 paying that price would be a little much for me right now. I would probably wait until we get a better price, maybe a live opportunity. She gets plus odds. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to pass on that fight too. Let's look at the next fight that we have here. So we have the feature prelim of the night. Some could argue this could be on the main card, so it's really interesting to see why it isn't. We have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Joaquin Buckley. Right now, Joaquin Buckley is a minus 200, open up at a minus 150 against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Okay, I think I know why the fight was either moved off the main card or put on the prelims. I think the pick here will be Buckley. Reason why, at age 40, Thompson, he's age 41. Sorry, this guy's just even older than I thought. Age 41, he's going to be a physical disadvantage in most of his fights going forward. The only fight that he has won in the past 4 years is against Kevin Holland, where they agreed to have a striking battle only. Barring another instance of that happening, and I don't think that's going to happen with Buckley, I just see Buckley doing the smart thing and eventually wrestling this guy to a win. Buckley, he may try to test the ego and strike with Wonder Boy Thompson early on, but I think he's going to notice that Wonder Boy is still a really great striker, and in a kickboxing match, he's probably going to beat Buckley. I just think that he has a more technical skill set. He's going to be just more. He's just going to point fight his way to victory, pretty much. And once I think Buckley realizes that, he's just going to use his physical tools. Buckley's a beast at 170. I mean, he is strong, quick. I think he's going to use that wrestling that he's mixed in his previous fights to wrestle Stephen Wonderboy Thompson to the ground. Another reason why I like Buckley, I think he's showed some good fight IQ in his last few fights, right? He mixed in the takedowns with the striking against Ruzaboyev. Just a lot of his fights, you guys see that he's mixed in those takedowns. So I think he's going to do that here. Outside of a flash knockout shot, I see this fight going the distance, actually, because I think Wonderboy is going to stay safe on the ground. I mean, Buckley doesn't really have a submission threat. So pick here is going to be Buckley via decision. I actually like the over 2.5, minus 205 when I last saw it. Let's see what the odds are now for that. It's still minus 205, yeah, and it opened up in a minus 185. So I do see that this fight's probably going to go decision as well. Definitely probably go over 2.5. So I like that as a potential parlay piece rather than backing either fighter. Let's move on to the main card. So the main card will open up with Roman Dolidze versus Kevin Holland. Odds for the fight here, we have Kevin Holland minus 161. Last night when I saw it, he was at minus 185. I think that would have been a great time to potentially get on this guy right here, Roman Dolidze. That should tell you a little bit about my pick there. Yeah, the pick here will be Roman Dolidze. Kevin Holland, very active fighter. He's moving back up to 185 for this matchup. He's had just a lot of issues with grapplers in the past at this weight division. Dolidze is back at 185 after beating Anthony Smith at 205 on short notice, UFC 303, I think. And I just think he's going to be too strong for Kevin Holland to hold off for 15 minutes. There is going to be one concern that I have for Dolidze, and it's his cardio. This guy has shown to gas in the past, and this fight's going to be at elevation, so he could be one of the riskier underdogs to play. Waiting for a live entry for either fighter might be the better move here, because if, let's say that Holland has really worked on his takedown defense and he can hold off Roman Dolidze here for the majority of the fight, I mean, I think he's probably going to win decision here. But if Roman can get the takedowns, control Kevin Holland on the mat for the majority of the fight, obviously he's going to be the play. So could be a good opportunity either way to come off a profit, depending on how the fight goes in the first few minutes. And try to see if Dolidze has any signs of gassing, if he is able to control Holland on the ground. So I think he will. I think he's probably going to be improved enough. So I'll say Dolidze via decision. But I mean, he's shown in the past that you can't really trust him too much with the grappling, because sometimes he just has a kickboxing matchup. His takedowns really aren't the best as well. But once again, Kevin Holland has a really huge grappling hole when it comes to the takedowns, right? He's a good jiu-jitsu player, but I think Dolidze is a better jiu-jitsu player. It's going to depend on if Dolidze is able to wrestle Kevin Holland here. I think he will. So yeah, I think the pick here will be Dolidze via decision. Let's move on to the next fight, and my lock of the week, not the underdog or plus odds or anything, but just the person that I'm most confident in this whole card. This will be the fight between Ketlen Vieira versus Kayla Harrison. Let's look at the odds for this fight. We have Kayla Harrison at minus 650, open up at a minus 900. Some dog odds have been taken. The pick here will be Harrison. I'm going with the Olympic judo gold medalist. Even at minus 650, she's the most confident pick I have on this card. I think this is a bad matchup for Vieira. I think that Vieira likes to use the grappling. really bully her opponents with her strength, she's not going to be able to bully Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison is the bully in this division until Amanda Nunes comes back, hopefully. But, I think that this fight will be mainly fought in the clinch against the cage. You don't want that kind of fight against Kayla Harrison. That's where she thrives and dominates. I think they're going to get clinched up right away because Vieira is probably going to try to test her strength too. But she's going to find out that I think Kayla Harrison is just that much stronger than her. And I think she's going to put Vieira against the clinch, do some judo throws on her. And as we saw in the last fight, on that position, Harrison is live for a submission. I mean, she's tried like rear naked choked, I think, Holly Holm. I think she can do it against Vieira as well. So give me Harrison via decision. I could also see a sub. I think she's a parlay juicer at minus 650. I would add her to the parlays this week. Let's move on to the next fight. This will be a really interesting fight. I think one of the more interesting fights on this card. We have Jose Aldo versus Mario Bautista. Let's look at the odds right now for that. When I was the odds keep on dropping. People are taking the Aldo action. I don't blame them. Mario Bautista was a minus 135 right now. It opened up at a minus 175. Last night when I saw it, he was like plus 142 for Aldo. So I don't know. Let's break it down. So the pick here will be Aldo. I don't know who people think Mario Bautista is. I mean, this is kind of similar to the Hernandez thing, but like, why did he open up at a minus 130, minus 175 against Jose Aldo? I just don't. That was a weird opening line. It makes me believe that this could be like a really fishy trap. Like why is like Jose Aldo an underdog like that? Having him an underdog seems a bit trappy. Maybe they're trying to get people to play Jose Aldo. People are, it looks like, obviously. But for me, I think Jose Aldo is just going to have the bigger moments in this fight. I mean, Bautista, he has the youth. He should have the movement. He has a tendency to leave his chin open, though. And I could see Aldo taking advantage of this with his boxing. He has some fast hands, even at 38 plus years old. Bautista should have the higher volume throughout the fight, but I don't trust his ability to inflict damage on Aldo. Bautista also likes to mix in the grappling. We know who Jose Aldo is, man. This guy has like a 91% takedown defense. Even Merab couldn't take this guy down with his like 16 attempts throughout the fight. He just held Aldo against the cage. And maybe that could happen here too, because this is in Salt Lake City again. That's where Aldo lost against Merab. But man, we can't compare Bautista to Merab now. Come on now. Like Merab is crazy cardio, crazy pace. I don't think Bautista's going to have that to do against Aldo. So I think the grappling is going to be negated, in my opinion. I do have some concerns. Obviously, it's a trappy line. That's weird. Like, I thought Aldo should be a favorite in this matchup. So it's strange to me that he's an underdog. Also, Aldo is 38 at, the 135 weight class. He could show up washed at any point. I saw that with Gilbert Burns. But with Gilbert Burns, at least there are signs of him being kind of washed coming into that fight that I should have looked at. But Aldo just looked great against Jonathan Martinez, who was another young up and comer. Bautista's obviously better than Jonathan Martinez, more varied, but I got to pick Aldo here. Give me Aldo via decision. I might have to play it. Plus, I wish we did it at plus 140 something. Plus 115 right now. That's, yeah, I don't know. We'll see, but my pick here will be Aldo. Let's look at the co-main event of the evening. So we have Rocky Pennington versus Juliana Pena. Odds for this fight right now: Rocky Pennington minus 200. Open up. She's open up at minus 200 now. She's a minus 170. The pick here will be Pennington. Once again, I'm not able to back a fighter in Pena who's coming off a 2-year layoff. She was badly beaten in her last loss. I think that beating that she took against Amanda Nunes might have been worse than just getting KO'd clean, because she was getting like just ground and pounded on, knocked down. Like I think she got knocked down like 3 times in that matchup. Yeah, she was just getting beaten up. And Pena obviously does have the skills to make this a competitive fight. I mean, she beat Nunes the first time, although obviously now we see that was more so because Nunes didn't show up that night rather than I think Pena showing up. But yeah, Pena is just gonna be rusty once again. Like 2-year layoff since that last fight. Who knows how much sparring she's done since then? I just think that Pennington's skill set as a fighter is just too good to capitalize off of a rusty fighter like this. I mean, she has that classic old school tough women's MMA like style, a grinder. She makes little mistakes. She's not going to beat herself. She's probably going to be boring. There's going to be a lot of cage pushing, clinching, takedowns sometimes. I mean, I just think that it's going to be a very boring fight. Pennington trains in elevation too. I think this is a recipe for disaster for Pena. I think that she's just going to get held up pretty much the majority of the fight. We saw what Pennington did against Maio Bueno Silva, and Silva, it's a younger, somewhat even a younger version than Pena. I mean, yeah, I don't see how Pena is going to come out of this with a dub. So pick here is going to be Pennington via decision. I actually like Pennington via decision plus 110. I think the odds just dropped today. Yeah, it is plus 110. So I actually do like that play. Let's look at the next fight. And we have our last fight of the night. We have the main event. We have Poitin, Alex Pereira versus Khalil Rountree Jr. Really surprising. I can't believe that Rountree is actually still fighting for a title. Odds right now, we have Pereira minus 460, opened up at a minus 450. The pick here will be Pereira. I cannot fade this guy after what he's done in light heavyweight. He's just beating everybody. Although I'm picking him, there are just some concerns for me in this kind of matchup. Yeah, I mean, laying that much juice on him at minus 460, just with the way that he fights, because he fights with his hands pretty low, a lot of 50-50 exchanges. And I mean, we've seen that this guy, he comes out on top on most of those exchanges, right? And I think he's going to do it again in this matchup. But I can also see him getting blitzed by Khalil Rountree, just coming in, catching him, because he does keep his hands low. Poitin is, he's been on the winning exchange. He's been on the winning side of most of these exchanges, and I think he's improved since going up to 205 with a skill set. It's easier matchups for him at 205 too, because he doesn't have to weight cut. He's not as drained. He can react quicker. He's fighting usually slower people than him now at 205. Yeah, I think Rountree is a dangerous matchup for him in a sense that Rountree is fast. He's quick. He's going to be faster and quicker than Pereira. I think Rountree also leaves himself open, kind of like Yuri. I can see him trying to even blitz in or just leaving himself open. And I think Pereira is going to counter this guy and knock him out like he did to many other fighters. So, yeah, I see Poitin cracking him, probably knocking him out, but minus 460, I don't know if I can play that. That's a little much for my taste for like a 37-year-old. I mean, he's getting up there in age. Khalil Rountree, he's 34. He's not that young either. So, could be, maybe it's a lock, but I'll probably decide later on in the week if we want to play it in a way. But yeah, right now the pick here will be Alex Pereira via knockout. That about does it for the breakdown of UFC 307. I wish everybody the best of luck. Once again, if you guys want to see the raw notes that I provided for this matchup or this fight card, go on our Discord, sign up to be a premium member. You can sign up on WAP payments, purepicks.gg, our website, $20 a month. We're going to finish off the year strong because obviously our year kind of started in November of last year. So we have a few more events and definitely want to get that ROI up before November comes. So once again, just best of luck, everybody. Enjoy the fight card, and we'll be back soon.